Have you ever wondered if the advice that you've been getting to grow your business isn't the best? Well, I know for a fact that most of it isn't because after running my business for the last 7 years, I can tell you that a lot of what you see online actually is horrible advice. But in those 7 years, I've built two multi seven figure businesses using a new system that's not only worked for me, but over 300 people that we've been able to help. So I'm excited in this video because I'm going to be revealing how you can go from not even owning a business to scaling that business up to $1 million per year. And in this breakdown, you're going to learn the exact system that you need to follow and also learn about what horrible advice you just shouldn't be following anymore. Let's get into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out a whole $0 to $1 million a year roadmap. And really what I'm teaching you is what I've learned after being a glorified freelancer, burnt out, working 16, 18 hours a day, trying to scale my business to being able to scale not only the first business I started, but my second business to multiple seven figures. We got a studio space, worked with $1 billion brands, and so much more. And not only were we able to scale the business, but I was able to do things that I enjoy, and the business didn't ultimately end up running me. Like I was able to smash Ironmans, do things that I love, like endurance sports, spend time with my wife and our dog, and actually have time for hobbies. And what I'm gonna do, how I'm gonna break this down, is I'm gonna break it down in multiple steps. So we're gonna go through the 0 to 10K a month. So how do I get that first 10K a month inside of my business? Then we're going to go from that 10K a month to actually sustaining it and scaling to $100,000 a year. Then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about that $100,000 a year to the $250,000 a year mark, what you need to be focused on and how to actually get there. And then $250,000 a year to $500,000 a year. And then we get to the big dogs, which is $500,000 a year to $1 million a year. And as I go through this, what I'm going to be going through are the different pillars that are going to be really, really important for us to focus on, which is going to be offer. What is it that we're actually offering? Lead gen. How are we producing lead sales? What does the sales side of things look like? Fulfillment. How are we actually fulfilling things in our business? Systems. What are the systems? What should that actually look like inside of our business? And team. Who is going to be helping me? These are these 6 pillars that are going to be paramount for scaling inside of your business, and the 6 pillars that we want to be focusing on as we scale and be thinking about from the jump, because these are the typical 6 pillars that any business will basically run off of. And we want to make sure that we're mindful and we're executing within these 6 pillars. First things first, guys, is we're going to go to that $0 to $10,000 per month mark. How do we get our first $10,000 per month mark inside of our business? If maybe we don't even have a business, maybe we're just trying to scale something, maybe we have a skill set, maybe we have an idea, whatever that could be. How do we get that first $10,000 per month? I like to call this Scrappy mode. Your real goal from 0 to 10K is to be in Scrappy mode. This is where every business really starts. No systems, no niche, just pure hustle. And for me, when I was first starting my business, I had to grind for that first $10,000 a month. I had to do everything possible to just get that first 10K so that I could prove that this business was an actual model and actually sustainable. And really at this point, it is just you. It's you doing everything. You don't need this huge team. You don't need to be focusing on anything other than just getting to that $10,000 per month mark. You are in survival mode, and your main goal is to just get consistent revenue, prove your skill set, and prove your model. So what happens a lot in the Scrappy mode is we're saying yes to everything because we're just trying to get that invoice paid. We're sending sporadic DMs. Our client acquisition strategies kind of all over the place, and it's not really predictable. We're trading basically time for deliverables, right? Because it's just us. Maybe we're just selling the skill set or the skill that we've acquired to our customers. Everything is in our head. We don't have any systems and processes in place. And then what often happens at this stage, because it's everything so new and we're trying to learn everything, is there's no structure. And oftentimes we start to feel overwhelmed. And all of this isn't really a bad thing to be feeling, because this is where, again, we are in the Scrappy mode, and our real ambition is to just get consistent revenue out of our business. So where we need to focus on each pillar is this. So when it comes to our offer, all we really need to do is we need to figure out what our skill set is that we can begin to sell. When I first started my business, I was selling my skill set of social media, of content creation, of editing, basic knowledge of marketing. So with that skill set, what I would do is I would just market myself and market, hey, I have the skill set in marketing, I have the skill set in social media and content creation. Can I help you? And what we want to really be doing from our offer perspective, because likely you have a skill set that you're going to start to be selling, is we want to leverage our skill sets to solve a problem to get your clients to an outcome. Where I often made a mistake when I was selling my services is I would basically say yes to everything. Whatever you need me to do, I'll freaking do it just for that paycheck. But where we really need to be focused on in the offer perspective is not to be so deliverable focused, but outcome focused. How are we going to be able to position our offer in our messaging in whatever we're doing just to get our clients to an outcome, aka make more money? And here, speed is going to be important, more important than anything else. And that is the core component of our offer. We want to make sure our skill set is attached to an outcome that makes our clients money. And that's our core focus when it comes to an offer. So it's a little bit tricky to be disciplined with it. But if you actually want to sell your offer, we're not going to sell deliverables. We're going to sell the outcome that those deliverables actually create for the customers. Next is lead gen. This is where you just need to be focusing on that 0 to 10K per month mark. A lot of people are like, oh, I need to build this beautiful website, or I need to get this sales presentation, or I need to hire people, blah, 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 blah. It's like, absolutely not. Lead gen is everything to get your first $10,000 per month mark. You should be doing nothing else but lead gen, everything, meaning DMing your network, posting on social media, cold DMing, anything possible to start to drum up that first couple of clients so that you can start to generate revenue. This is where you need to spend time. Do not build your website. Do not work on your brand. Do not create this polished content. 90% of your time should be going to outreach. 90% of your time should be going to marketing efforts to generate leads for your business. Next up is sales. So when you do actually get a call, sales calls are going to feel really, really messy. Okay. They're going to feel all over the place because you just have this offer. Maybe you don't know how to sell it quite yet. It's new. Maybe people referral, so they don't really know who you are. That's okay. Like, you're learning to pitch. Get the reps in, focus on selling the outcome, come up with a basic script that you can follow when you are selling. But when it comes to sales, what I would recommend, especially if you're just starting, offer something crazy to just get them in the door. Because what will happen is if you get the first couple of clients, those become case studies that you'll be able to leverage later on in order to get more clients. And then if you actually do good by that client and you have a really solid offer and you're able to actually fulfill on it, they're going to tell their friends. When it comes to fulfillment, you're going to be doing everything like done for you, white glove, like you just touching every single point of it. You're going to feel like you have a job essentially. But this is important so you can start developing systems for your offer on how you're getting your clients from where they are to where they want to go, which is going to be really important. It's going to feel very unscalable, which it is, but that's totally fine. This is where you need to be in the specific situation. You do not need to do anything else but fulfillment, but starting to refine your offer and make sure you actually get the job done. Same thing with systems, like bare minimum. Create a Stripe calendar, create some payment links inside of Stripe, get a Calendly so people can actually book a call, start using Notion so that you can have some infrastructure and somewhere to document things, but just you need enough to stay afloat. Do not build any systems inside of your business if you are not at 10K a month yet inside of your business. And when it comes to team, again, it is all you. At this point, guys, you basically just need to grind. Okay, that is your core focus. You just need to grind, get that first 10K in, do whatever it takes to get those first customers inside of the door, because that is our core focus here, is getting the customers in the door. Offer something crazy, whatever it could be. Now, after you get that first $10,000 per month, what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to sustain it and get to our first $100,000 per year, which is $8,333 per month on a consistent basis. We call this the sales and stability phase. So at this point, you've probably had a few clients, you've made some money. Now the real goal is going to be consistency. You want to balance what you've been actually selling to actually delivering on what you've been able to sell. And it can oftentimes feel really chaotic at this point because it is still, for the most part, all you. And while you can't basically sustain doing everything yourself because there's only 168 hours per week, you can't afford a full-time team at this point. So you kind of are just in grind mode to get to that sustainability and make sure clients don't leave you while also being able to generate new opportunities. So what happens here is a lot of people are still selling anything. Like, it's starting to feel a little chaotic because there's consistency. They've been doing this for a while. It's just them. At this point, since you have some clients and there's some consistency, you might be doing outreach in bursts because you might get bogged down doing client fulfillment, and it just kind of like yo-yos a little bit. And you're starting to feel those months of feast and famine where it's like pipeline's full, pipeline's empty. Good month, bad month. When it comes to sales, like there's definitely not really a sales process in place or a follow-up protocol because again, you're juggling so many different things at this point, and deals could start to go cold as a result of just kind of sporadically doing the outreach and not having a process. Again, you're starting to feel a little bit drained by the custom work, and systems are still all over the place and doing things manual. And at this point, a lot of people don't hire and end up becoming the bottleneck inside of their business, which ultimately hurts them later on at the end of the day. So, what we need at this phase to consistently get to that $100,000 per year mark is we need to start narrowing down our services. What are people saying yes to? Where are people like really responding? What is the market really responding to when I'm doing my lead gen, when I'm talking to people? What gets them excited? Start to hone in and focus on just that package, just creating a package around what people are actually excited about, what's getting them the most results, what's converting the highest, and what people are responding to inside of our marketing. When it comes to lead gen, add some outbound structure. If you're at 0 to 10K and you've basically tried everything, we've gotten through that scrappy mode, what structure can we put in place in order to have consistency? Because where a lot of people don't make it past this point is that they don't have the structure, they don't have the consistency with the outbound, with the marketing, and they end up dealing with those months of feast and famine. So what I would suggest is add some structure when it comes to outbound, whether it's, okay, cool, the first 2 hours of the day, I'm going to be doing outbound, or I'm going to set up cold email with instantly so that I can constantly be doing outbound and reaching out to people. And in addition to building some structure, it might be good to start building your brand and posting 2 to 3 times per week because you're getting clients, you have a process in place, you're dialing in your package, and you're starting to solidify, hey, this is an actual business and I'm scaling to $100,000 per year. And I have something that will actually provide outcomes to customers. And I need to become an authority in this space so people actually trust me, which will make your lead gen a lot easier. When it comes to sales, again, if you've gotten your first 10K and you're on to $100,000 per year, we just need to create a basic sales script and a follow-up process for every sales call. Because at this point, if your focus, again, 90% of your time still at this point should be on lead gen, is you should start to have a process for it. Have a process for the sales call. What script am I following? What happens if they don't close? What's my follow-up protocol? What am I following? What is my process for the sales calls, even though you're doing everything yourself? Because what we want to develop is we want to develop the IP on sales of what actually works well. Because success with sales is really adherence to a protocol, adherence to a script. And if we can start developing that script, then we'll be able to actually follow that script by a T, and that will increase our likelihood of actually closing deals. When it comes to fulfillment, at this point, guys, it'll still be all you. And again, things are going to start feeling chaotic because you're doing fulfillment, you're doing sales, you're doing offer, you're doing systems, you're basically the whole team. You're starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed. This is where we really need to be disciplined, especially if we've identified our core offers, of starting to document our process of how we're getting our clients from where they are to where they want to go. Because the sooner that we do this, the sooner that we can just document this, the easier it will be to plug people in to actually work those processes. One of my mistakes was I had no documentations in place. I had no systems, no SOPs, and I would hire somebody and I would expect them to be able to just operate based off of what was in my brain. And what would happen is they would completely fail because they didn't have any trainings, they didn't have any processes, they didn't have any material that they could actually point back to. So my biggest regret in scaling of my first business was not having trainings that I could point people to or documenting my process of how I get somebody from A to Z. So at this point, inside of Notion, we just need to start documenting how we're doing what we're doing, because scaling is just scaling the system, scaling the process, and plugging people in to actually work that process. Next up, when it comes to systems, again, still bare minimum. Like if you're doing $100,000 a year, we do not need to spend 80% of our time on systems and infrastructure. That time needs to be going to lead gen and fulfillment. So again, bare minimum, but start to use a tool like Notion to document your processes out so that you have a paper trail. And then lastly, from a team perspective, again, at $100,000 per year, you probably don't need anybody to help you out. Maybe bringing on a VA or someone to help fulfill like low level tasks, maybe like video editing, or a VA to help with like some admin stuff. At this point, guys, I would not really be focusing too heavy on team. This is going to be that grind phase where you're starting to scale up and you're starting to create predictability and you're juggling so many things and you're starting to feel chaotic. We, again, just need to focus on getting really crystal clear on our offer, lead gen all day. That's 80% of our time. And then fulfillment would be the rest of the time. And then what's left of it, we're going to start documenting our processes so that when we can actually get past that point, it's going to be easy to scale and we're not bogged down because we're doing everything ourselves. So we want to become true CEOs inside of our business. And at $100,000 per month, this is what we need to be focused on to start scaling to that. And at this point, guys, we are building momentum. But what's going to start to happen at that $10,000 a month mark on a consistent basis is you're going to maybe feel stuck if you start saying yes to everything and start customizing everything. So it's really, really important that we get really narrow, really crystal clear on our offer so that we can then scale that offer because it is impossible to scale a custom work saying yes to everything. We want to scale the scalable. And if you're saying yes to everything, you're starting to try to scale the unscalable, which is just not it. So what's next is that $100,000 per year mark to $250,000 per year mark. We call this the burnout line. And this is where most agencies begin to flatline. Okay. They're busy. They're borderline burned out. Growth feels super painful for them. And you feel like you really just can't take a day off and you're not present because you're just working all the time. And there's so much stuff to do inside of your business that you feel like there's really no time to actually get anything done. And you might even be thinking, did I just create a high paying job for myself? Or is this actually a business that I'm building? So what typically happens here is scope creep starts to kick in. Clients are expecting the world. Sporadic lead gen, we're still not quite productized on our lead gen because we haven't been able to actually invest all of our time into it. And some months are good, some months are not that great. You're still closing deals, but it's pretty manual. It's pretty scrappy still because there's no real structure to that sales process. You begin to maybe hire your first person. And what I see a lot of people do is they hire without the systems and then they get frustrated and end up just doing more work or doing it themselves. And it just adds more work to the actual founder. They have no systems and they're just managing basically by guessing and they're setting up their team for failure. And again, one of my biggest problems was I would hire people and I would just micromanage them, or I would just like feel frustrated and instantly regret hiring the person. So what we need at the burnout line phase from an offer perspective is we need to lock it in. The reason that most people feel burnt out and the reason that I started to feel burnt out is because I was saying yes to everything. I was trying to scale the unscalable. And because I was saying yes to everything and based off of my skill set, it was me doing everything and I was juggling way too many things. I basically had 10, 15 clients that I was doing part-time work for, and all 15 clients were completely different deliverables. There's basically really no way that I could actually scale that beyond my actual self. So at this point, what we really need to do is we need to get really clear on our offer that solves one clear problem for our businesses. And this could be a 3-tier offer. This could be one entry point offer. This could be our core offer, whatever it could be. We need to be really crystal clear and disciplined in just selling that. And the thing is, if you build your offer right, meaning it actually speaks to the pain points, it actually gets the clients to the outcomes, you're working on your skill set to get the clients the results, then there should be no reason why this isn't going to sell off the shelves for you. From a lead gen perspective, this is where we need to really, really systematize our outbound. A lot of people, again, scale up. They're just randomly prospecting because that's where they need to be spending their time. And this is where we need to start building out a process for our lead gen. We need that predictability and we need to have a full pipeline so that we can actually have a pipeline and not deal with those months of feast or famine, because leads should never be an issue in our business, okay? We should never, especially as we're scaling to that $250,000 per year mark, we should never feel like, oh, I don't know where my next client is going to come from, because that's going to basically give you anxiety of hiring, of building systems, of actually scaling, of the next step. And you're always going to just yo-yo in your business and flatline and feel burnt out and basically just handle everything yourself because you don't have budget or confidence that you can actually hire people to do it. So lead gen, we need to start to systematize and to come up with a nurture. So for me, what I would do is I would systematize my outbound, use a tool like Instantly to constantly have outbound going out to customers. I would also maybe consider doing ads as another channel. And because you're scaling and you have clients, do a referral program to your current clients that your cost per acquisition would be virtually zero, so that you can offer that to the people that come in. And then all they need to do is just refer a friend, and then you give them whatever it could be in order to just simply refer a client to them. And those will be the best layup closes that you would ever get. When it comes to sales, Guys, you are still going to be the closer, but it should feel structured. You should have a CRM. We like to use Go High Level and we like to use Notion, and we should just follow the process. We should have the pre-call workflow dialed in. We should have the sales framework worked in, and we should have the follow-up protocol really dialed in, and we should be able to know exactly what our pipeline looks like, and we should know what our follow-up protocol looks like, and we should have structure around it. We should have a really solid intuition of what is happening in our sales. And when it comes to fulfillment, this is super important, guys. As we scale to $250,000 per year, we need to eventually hire people to work the business, to work the delivery. So what we need to start doing is we need to start building the systems delivery, meaning we need SOPs, we need onboarding assets, we need trainings, we need systems that we can plug somebody into. Because what we don't want to do from our fulfillment perspective is we don't want to plug someone in and have them basically just be set up to fail, because that will just add more work to your plate and waste money hiring people. So start building the delivery systems. You'll still be doing a majority of the stuff, but for the most part, this is where we really need to buckle in and get to that point where we can actually see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it is going to be the fulfillment and the systems. When it comes to systems, this is where we need to start introducing automation. So automate admin, automate your onboarding process, automate your call reminders, automate your follow-up, automate your pre-call reminders, automate things inside of fulfillment, like call reminders potentially internally or whatever it could be. This is where we need to leverage automation to scale from there. And when it comes to our infrastructure, we need to start to build out your Notion or whatever your project management system is for your team. So what we like to do is we like to use Notion basically for creating team boards. If I'm hiring a client success manager, I'm going to build out a system that sets them up for success. So when I hire them, all they really need to do is they just need to work off of the board. They're going to see all their tasks. They're going to see their expectations, their KPIs based off of the offer that we're doing and the fulfillment that we've promised to the client and how we get our clients from where they are to where they want to go. And when it comes to team, what I would focus on is I would hire contractors or part-time help based off of our offer. Like what I like to do is have a VA handle like project management and making sure the fulfillment is getting done and you're assisting with them. And what that VA can also do is manage client communication, like non-voice client communication, like Slack messages, emails, whatever it could be. And any sort of admin, finance, invoicing situation, a VA can take that off of your plate so that you can basically have it removed from your brain and you can focus on what actually matters, which will be continuing to grow the business, making your system, making sure your team is set up for success, and of course, getting more leads and refining your sales process. On the team side too, again, like audit your delivery. What can easily be delegated to a video editor? What can easily be delegated to a copywriter? What could easily be delegated to XYZ person in order to actually get it done? This is where you can start hiring subcontractors to get stuff off of your plate. But if we don't have the systems out in, it's going to be really, really challenging. This is where we start to foundationally build our systems so that we can scale to that next level and they actually have something that they can plug into. So at this point, guys, if you do not fix your systems and learn to delegate and actually delegate the right way, which I just explained, this level will break you. You're going to be in feast and famine. You're going to have one good month. You're going to have one bad month. You're going to feel burnt out. You're going to be juggling everything. It is really, really important that we're starting to build the infrastructure in order to actually scale to that next level. Next up, we have that $250,000 to $500,000, $500,000 per year. What I call this is the structure and scale phase. At this point, our offer is dialed. We're closing clients monthly. We're overseeing work because we have people delivering a lot of the work and people handling the project management. Now our focus becomes building a team and creating operational efficiency so that the business isn't just scalable, but it's actually sustainable without you needing to do everything and have a hand in everything inside of your business. So what I see a lot of issues in the structure and scale phase is people are still doing custom work. Like we need to stop doing custom work because that's going to be the hugest bottleneck. Lead gen is still depending on the energy of the founder. And when you get busy doing fulfillment or working on something else, it completely stops. You're still taking every call and chasing every follow-up as a business owner, and things still rely on you when it comes to the business and it feels chaotic. And what also happens at this phase is you just hire helpers, not leaders. You're hiring just people to just do tasks and you're just, okay, I have a bunch of task managers and there's no real leaders, making it really hard for you to actually trust the team and be able to step back without actually needing to have your say in everything. So what you need at this phase, when it comes to offer is, again, like no more custom work unless it's 100% worth it, meaning it is a banger project. Like I would say 70% of our work was retainers and offer. And then the 30% was what we call project work. And the project work was worth it. 5-figure retainers, super worth it for us to actually do. In addition to the offer, start to introduce Ascension. Like, what's the Ascension offer that you get from the current offer that they're doing? So is that a custom offer that is exclusive to a specific client? Is it a value-based offer? Whatever it could be, start introducing something that you can upsell clients into and increase your lifetime value. Start considering that, start thinking about that. But we need to be really disciplined with not doing custom work for new clients unless it's completely worth it, and refining our offer for what we're doing and getting really good at that one thing. Next, when it comes to lead gen, we should have a cold outbound system using something like Instantly. We should be posting consistent content, building our authority, building our brand. We should have an ad system as well, which brings in new leads consistently from a different channel from social media. We should have case studies that we're constantly leveraging to build proof, to make the sales team's job a lot easier. And we should have a dialed in referral program. We need to identify the channels that will actually bring consistent results from a lead gen perspective. And if we can build out these systems and have these humming, again, leads should never be an issue. Your business will never fail because you have too many leads. This is something that we always need to be hammering the gas on. If we pull off the gas on lead gen, everything else is going to fall apart. So we need to constantly be pushing forward on leads. When it comes to sales, you should still probably be selling at this point. You're probably taking a majority of the calls, but you should have a system now. The pipeline, the follow-up, you should track your close rate. You should track your follow-ups rate. You should track your cash collected rate. All things should be systematized, and you're starting to make decisions based off of data and starting to get ratios of how your sales is actually doing. When it comes to fulfillment, you should have a CSM or your VA or a project manager that's managing all of the delivery. So you're no longer in the fulfillment. You no longer feel anxious about what's happening. You no longer feel anxious if we're going to deliver this project. Like, you no longer feel anxious if this is actually going to get done, because you have somebody who's fully devoted to just that. And that is removed from your brain, and they're just simply reporting to you. When it comes to systems, this is where we need to start building data. We need a fully built out data source for our business using Notion, using a different project management system for our team to work off of. Again, systems run the business, people run the systems. So our systems should be operatable by somebody else, because we've done the work to build out the systems so that we can plug somebody in to actually work those systems. Like before, we started the infrastructure, we started to slowly build these out, but we are building them with the intention of somebody falling into them and being able to work. And if we're doing this right, we can remove ourselves from the fulfillment so that we can actually have time on the systems and actually building them up. Because at this point, your most important task is going to be setting your team up for success and making sure that they're thriving. When it comes to team, again, people should be running the systems that you've built, especially when it comes to delivery. You have clear roles for delivery, you have metrics, you're leading them essentially, and you're not micromanaging them, because all you're doing is you're just making sure the team is managing what you set in place for them to actually manage. So what this looks like for us, each person has a daily winning formula in the EOD form, and we're just making sure that they're hitting their KPIs, and we know what KPIs are in place for each role. And all we really need to do is look at the KPIs to make sure that they're in fact hitting those KPIs. And if there's any issues with fulfillment, then it gets brought to us by the project manager, and we're dealing with the project manager, with the client success manager, whoever it could be, to then make sure that that person is hitting those KPIs and is clear on those KPIs. And we've done everything that we can do to set that person up for success. Jocko Willink always says, there's no bad teams, only bad leaders. So our job is to feed into the team, get them to a point where they have everything that they need in order to run the systems that we've built. If not, it's not their fault for doing a bad job. It's your fault for not building the proper systems and structure in place. And at this point, guys, is all about trying to stay out of the weeds while leading with clarity and data. So it's going to be really tough for a lot of people to not feel the need to micromanage, to not feel the need to edit this video, to not feel the need to send this to the client, to not feel the need to be the point on every single project, and kind of take your ego out of the business and look at your business just simply as a system, and let your team start to operate the business and trust them, and look at your team as an asset and you're feeding into them in order to actually thrive inside of the role. The next phase that we want to hit on is that $500,000 a year to $1 million per year. And we call this the CEO mode. This is my favorite mode for sure. At this point, the business should run day to day without you. Okay. Your job is no longer basically just like solving problems all day. It's about building the machine that prevents the problems from actually happening. You're no longer focused on the deliverables for the client or getting everything out the door. You're focused on the growth levers that will actually scale the business, which is people, sales, and your systems. What happens why people don't actually make it to CEO mode and actually get past the CEO mode is their offer is basically the same. They're running the business by intuition. They're fearing the true delegation, basically actually getting the team involved on this. They're struggling from going from busy, hashtag entrepreneur, hashtag hustle mode, hashtag I just need to grind all the time, to actually being a strategic thinker. And they don't have fulfillment that actually scales. They think that the more that they hustle, the more that their business is going to grow, when it's actually systems that will actually improve your business and developing systems for each pillar that I'm just talking about today. And then lastly, the team is still just relying on you for everything, which is what we don't want to happen inside of CEO mode. So what we need, guys, is when it comes to our offer, like we don't want our clients to outgrow our offer. If they think, oh, like I'm pretty good, like I feel pretty good about this, I'm good to move on. Layer it. Okay. Focus on lifetime value, not just new sales. It's a lot easier to increase lifetime value than it is to get a new client for the most part. So how do we layer on new offers? How do we layer on potential new add-ons for our clients? How do we create some sort of ascension for the clients so that they actually stay on with us longer? When it comes to lead gen, guys, we need to have a machine, inbound, outbound, paid, referrals, all working together with a marketing team to help set the appointments and basically manage this whole system. When it comes to sales, it really depends on your offer, your price point, how many sales calls, the volume and stuff. But what you could consider doing at this point is to remove yourself from the actual sales calls, especially the appointment setting. Like for sure, you should have an appointment setting team who is responsible for follow-up, setting the appointments, because at this point, you should have a consistent engine that's feeding you multiple leads every single day. And somebody fully devoted and incentivized to set appointments and to actually get closed deals is going to be key to removing yourself from that actual process. When it comes to fulfillment, what it should look like is you have a leadership-led fulfillment team. Like you're not managing the fulfillment team. You have somebody who's managing the fulfillment team and making sure things are getting across the finish line in a timely manner according to what we actually sold. In addition, we are starting to track and we're starting to be diligent with our client success efforts, meaning the retention, the NPS scores, the ROI for the clients, the lifetime value. That is the core focus of our fulfillment and making sure our clients are actually getting results when it comes to fulfillment. Again, data should be running our business and we should have systems in place to actually reflect that. So at this point, we should have CEO dashboards. We should have real-time dashboards. We should be making decisions based off of data, and your team just simply works the systems that you've built out. Because as you've been scaling, you've been focusing on your systems, you've been building these out, you've been setting your team up for success. All the team is doing is working the systems that you've already built from the skill set that you've acquired, from the outcomes that you've been able to get for your clients. Our core focus here is needing to make sure that the team is working the system is working for the clients, and it's actually driving results for them. And when it comes to teams, again, we're not just hiring a bunch of contractors, we are hiring leaders, okay? Not just task doers, not just people who will complete a task. Anybody that we hire, anybody on our team are people who have a vision, who are bought into the vision of the company and are working to scale within the company. And you as a leader see gold in everybody that you're bringing in, and you're basically telling them, I see you being a leader at the company, and that's who you're going to attract. You want to attract leaders, not just task doers. You want to attract editor who's going to be a senior editor, a client success manager who's going to be a head of client success, a videographer who's going to be the creative director, a PPC manager who's going to be the head of PPC or head of strategy, whatever it could be. That is who you're looking for. And at this point, you should have created those people and built them up in order to manage the actual day to day. The first person that I hired was a social media manager. And that social media manager is now the CEO of my company. And the second person I hired was a contract videographer. And that contract videographer is the creative director at my company. Not because they had some amazing skill set. It was because me as a leader saw something in them. And I told them, hey, this is where we're going. This is where our company is going to be. This is where I see you. I equipped them with systems. I equipped them with vision. I equipped them with tools. I did everything that I could do in order to scale the company and basically equip them to succeed and give them the opportunity to thrive. And they stepped up, they grew because they were leaders. They saw that vision for themselves and they worked up to that vision. At this point, guys, your most important client doesn't become the person that's paying your invoices, is actually the person that you're paying their invoices for, which is going to be your team. And we need to be diligent in making sure our team is taken care of and making sure that we have leaders at our organizations. And guys, CEO mode, this is what I hope you signed up for at your business, to run a real company, not a glorified freelancer, not a freelance business. You want to build a business around your life. You want to build a business that creates freedom. You want to build a business that is sustainable. You want to build a business that creates jobs and opportunities for people to actually grow. That is why we grow businesses. Now, at this point, it's about staying in this lane and scaling with intention. This is the scaling roadmap that will get you to 7 figures and be able to actually sustain 7 figures plus. If you follow this roadmap, especially at the 7-figure mark, if you just keep repeating the CEO mode activities and really drill into that, there should be no reason that you shouldn't be able to scale to multiple 7 figures inside of your business using this framework. So again, guys, just to recap, that 0 to 10K month is going to be all Scrappy. We're going to do anything that we can do to get to that $10,000 per month mark. That $10,000 a month mark to $100,000 a year is about sales and stability. We're still just grinding for sales, but we're starting to think about, how do I actually sustain this and what can I implement in order to do it? 100K to $250,000 a year is that burnout line. That $200,000 to $250,000 per year mark is where most people burn out and they say, wow, I just created a job for myself. Maybe this isn't worth it because I'm working 3 times the amount for just the same amount of money. And that $250,000 to $500,000 per year mark is about structuring and scaling, starting to build that infrastructure that will take you to the next level, which is going to be systems, fulfillment, and team, and then also lead gen, creating stability there. And then $500,000 to $1 million a year is really focusing on the team and making sure that they have everything that they need to succeed. Your appointment setting team, your fulfillment team, the systems in place, it's really easy for them to follow because your job becomes setting them up for success. Because if they're successful, then the company will be successful in the right areas, as well as scaling from a predictability, sales perspective, and whatnot. But this is where we start to transition from freelancer to scrappy entrepreneur to an actual CEO. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't actually recording myself building this business, but I think I had the next best thing. Because in the next video, I start a video completely from scratch and literally walk you through every step of the way of scaling that business. From setting up infrastructure to creating a winning offer, all the way up to getting my first sale so that you can literally just copy and paste exactly what I do. Oh, and I tried to do it in just 10 hours. So click on that video to see if I was able to make it in time. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and we will see you on the next one.